Hello Stampers, my name is Linda Bedinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Denver, Colorado. I'm so glad you could join me today. Today I have my July paper pumpkin alternatives for you, and I have 8 or 9 cards here. It's a fun kit. I did get the add-on, so some of them are made with the add-on, and I can show you what's included in that. And so let's just get started. Okay, so this is the paper pumpkin for July, and it is called Summer Nights, July 2020. And let me tell you a little bit about what's in this paper pumpkin. Here is the paper pumpkin kit, and there are 3 different designs of paper, and they have rounded corners, so they make like little postcards. It's like a card front, and then there's envelopes for them. And then in addition to that, there's these little paper bags with a cutout that you can make like luminarias. Put a candle in the bottom, one of those electronic candles, and it lights up and would sparkle through the cutout that's in the front there. And I'll show you all of the material here. The kit comes prepared to make 3, 6, 9 of these postcards, which can easily become card fronts. And it's all about the idea of summer nights. The envelopes are very plain. There's no inside pattern or outside perimeter. They're just completely plain. And then they give you a couple of alternatives here in the back, and I've done something similar to some of that in mine. And then the coordinating colors this time are Blackberry, Bliss, Calypso Coral, Coastal Cabana, and Night of Navy and White. And so those are the coordinating colors, and I think I used all of them at one time or another. Let me show you the stamp set that's in there. There is this cute little like a jar with a handle on it, like kids use to catch lightning bugs. And there's a little like a drop. And then there's a whole thing here, and I didn't use any of this, but there's an invitation stamp set here. It's a party. You're invited. RSVP. When and where. And I think those would be very handy to have in your stash. There's this long stick and this little curved piece, a little starburst here. And I think that's, oh, and the firefly here, and then this burst of almost like, in fact, in the sample that they did here, they used this stick here and this burst to make what looked like sparklers. And you could do that with gold embossing powder if you wanted to do something like that, and then put some other gold pieces on there. So one could easily do that. And on these, they made them, they would be like the party favors for the invitations that you made. And then they did several other things with theirs there, and I'll show you what I did with mine. In this kit, you get these gold glitter stars that are really quite large, and there's a ton of them here. I used a lot of them, and I still have, you can see, many left. Let's see, there are, let me show you these little paper bags that have the cutout. There's one there, and you can see that there is a cutout here. Now you could put a piece of paper back behind that and give it like a bright yellow or something to make it look like a burst. And on their samples, what they did was they stamped this burst over the top of this a couple of different times. And it's a cute little size bag. Let me open one up here. and it's got this cute little rippled top on it, and one could get a few treats in there, and they did theirs where they put a tag on it. So there's lots of things you can do with this little piece. And so then the pieces that you get in the kit are, let me just grab some of those so I can show them to you. These are what those postcard fronts, and I'm just going to grab a blank card here that I'm going to fold and put together, just so that you get an idea how big these pieces are. If you have a kit already, you know this, but these are big enough to fit right on the front of a card. So very easy to turn these into full-size cards. Okay, so there's 3 patterns here. There's this one, which is the dark to a bluish or a coastal cabana here piece. Then there's one that's light blue to Calypso Coral, and one that is mostly coastal cabana with a little bit of the navy and some white on it. And those are the ones that come in the kit, and I've used all of those. Now let me tell you a little bit about the add-on kit. Oh, let me finish with what comes in the paper pumpkin. You get, I can't remember how many of these there are, but maybe 6 of these little vellum and then gold stamped on top jars, like to catch the fireflies in. Then there are, here's some bits and pieces of some of those pages that I have left. This is one of the page of, they're actually laser cutouts. And so they've got these little jars with handles in Coastal Cabana, Blackberry, Bliss, and Calypso Coral. And then the fireflies, which are in Calypso Coral and Night of Navy. Then there's some stars here. This cute little not a merry-go-round, a Ferris wheel. And then this looks to be like a roller coaster. And there are 4 pages of these stickers in there, and I have a couple pages completely full that are left, and I've made 9 cards, so you can get quite a bit out of this. And then there are these labels, and I don't know if you can see, I'll bring them up a bit so you can see, but they're embossed. They've got an embossed edge on them, and there's this very large one, this more kind of square one, and then this one, which is in this shape. And I think I used one of these, and a couple of this size. And there's 2 pages of these labels, and as you can see, I have quite a few left. Now, the add-on kit, the faces of the cards, and they are cards, and there's 4 each of 3 different designs, so there's 12 card bases in here. And this one is similar to the one in the kit, that is this one, but this one has little clouds in it, and it goes to kind of a purple instead of a blue. They're just slightly different, although the tone on them is quite similar. Now this one is mostly like this, but it's got more of the Blackberry Bliss in it and a darker of the Coastal Cabana. And then there is this one that is mostly Calypso Coral and the purples. So it's got all of the same colors in it, but these cards are a little bit different. And they have white insides, and they're quite nice. These are the envelopes that come in the add-on, and they have this beautiful gold detail around the edges here that are frames. Now, what I found is if you cut that real close to the edge, that will fit on the front of a card. So you can actually get this whole piece to be on the front of your card, and I think I did one like that. Now, the insides of this paper are these pretty little fireflies, and the fireflies come in this Calypso Coral, then they come in the Blackberry Bliss, And then they also come in the Coastal Cabana. And you know me, give me a piece of paper that's got a pattern on it. And so I cut out the insides of those envelopes, and you will see as we go through my designs that I made a card or two using some of these pieces of paper from the inside of the envelopes. And then all you need to do is supply your own white envelope to go with this, and you can stamp some of those envelopes. You could turn some of these into an outside flap on the other more plain envelopes by, you know, either using this as a liner on the inside of this and just rounding some corners here to do something like that, or decorate the outside flap of this envelope with a bit of this paper as well. There's all kinds of things you can do with this. So there is that. And so let me go ahead. Let's see. And this this add-on piece is still available, and you can make 20 additional cards by using these card bases that come with you know, just supplies that are left after you make up your cards, or I would cut them down and divide them, and I'll show you what I did with some of mine. And I think you can get way more cards. You probably get 50 cards out of this whole combination of thing without any trouble at all. And this add-on is $10, and it's 20 card bases that have the decorated outsides like this one. So there's 20 total and 20 envelopes. So there's lots and lots of material for $10. It's a pretty good buy, and it's while supplies last. So they'll be available for some time until they run out of the material. Anyway, so that is the pieces that you get, and of course you get your glue dots and your dimensionals, and there was also a spool of Night of Navy baker's twine, and I don't have a single drop of it left. I used every bit of it with my making my cards. So as we get through there, I'll show you what that looks like when I show you it on the cards themselves. Okay, so let's just get started here. And this is one that I made, and I used one of the fireflies and some of the stars. Now these stars were the laser cuts, and I put them on the mini dimensionals, and then I put one of these little jars, and I put "You Light Up My Life," and I stamped "Happy Birthday" from "Here's a Card." And what I did was I just trimmed the edges on this one and then cut it on the diagonal just to give use some of the paper. And on the inside, I cut one of the jars in half, and you'll see where I've used it on the other side, captured a few fireflies inside and one little guy escaping there. And so that is card number 1. Then this one is one where I took that little package that turns into a bag, and I cut out this burst here that was, and I put it on the back side of one of these kinds of cards, and I used the lighter part of it to back up this piece here. I used one of those labels, and I just sponged around the edges of the whole thing and then put it on a card front that has the Navy and the Coastal Cabana, and I used some of the stars. And then what I did was I used our gold enamel glitter dots and added some more detail in that same kind of gold glitter look. This is that blue twine, and I just wrapped it around one edge of this sentiment and made a double bow. And then on the inside, here's where I used the other half of that jar because and I put some fireflies in that one. So that is card number 2. Then here's one that I made using the jar, and I used the whole jar, and I did a few of the fireflies. And what I found is if you put a tiny bit of seal on the backs, on the front side of those fireflies, then you can stick them to the jar, and then you can put a dimensional on the back of those to stick them to the card. And then of course you could use anything you wanted on this piece, because this label is pretty large. You can see I've got a dimensional back in here. See if I can get my hands on it to get it out of there. There we go. And so I used a couple of those large stars, and I stamped some more fireflies on this one. And on the inside of this, I just used a little of that firefly paper and a little bit of the Calypso Coral, because I thought it went with this card front. So there is card number 3. This one is card number 4, and I used a couple of those little jars and some fireflies, and I stamped my sentiment on a piece of Calypso Coral, on Coastal Cabana, and then I used a part of one of those card fronts to bring together the navy background here and the Coastal Cabana. And I used some of that yarn or string to look like my little lanterns were hanging down on the card, looking for some fireflies. And I put a lantern, another piece of that card front. So really, and I think these are like about an inch wide on these, and that's a 4-inch front. So you can get 4 strips like this out to do some of the decorating. So that one is card number 4. Then let's see, this one, well, let me show you this one first, and then that second one will make a little bit more sense. So this one, I used one of the pieces from the add-on that's a entire card base, and I stamped a couple of those bursts on here, and I used the laser cutout of the Ferris wheel and the roller coaster here, and I thought that looked so much like a summer night. Summer nights are all alight with everything magic and bright, and if you've got an amusement park in your city, then this feels like summer. And on the inside, I just used all different colors. The colors that coordinate with this, I used the Blackberry, Bliss, and the Calypso Coral, and then I felt like I wanted a yellow, so I just used my Daffodil Delight to put a few yellow ones in there and just decorate the inside that way. And that one is card number 5. Now then, this one, which is card 6, I used a bigger piece of that panel and went from the darker sky to the lighter, and I cut apart this laser cut, and I used the Ferris wheel on the outside of this, and then I put some of the fireflies. I stamped them there and put one of my little jars there, lanterns, and then on the inside I put the roller coaster. So this is what it looks like when it's all together, and this one I cut in half so I could have some of the same elements on the inside as well as the outside. And then I put a few of those very large stars on there, and used the same colors on the inside as were on the outside of the card. So this one is card number 6. This one, I used the You Light Up My Light, and this is where I used the outside of that envelope with that pretty gold detail and used it to put it on the front of my card, and I put the whole thing on a piece of Calypso Coral. And what I did was I cut up one of those little bags, and then I used this to put down on my card and sponged it and used it like a stencil to get this big starburst here. And I could have done that a couple of times if you want more detail on there, but I just used it once to get that. And then I colored put a few of those fireflies and a couple of those lanterns here, and then on the inside a starburst and more of the same. So that one is card number 7. Then this one, I cut down one of these pieces and I backed it in Calypso Coral, and I put some of those starbursts here, some of these on here, and on the inside more of the same. And this one says, "You'll light up my life." I think this one is the only one that doesn't have a sentiment on it, and I thought that could just be a note card and you could write anything you wanted on it. Okay, and that is 8. And then the last one, I used a white base and Blackberry Bliss as for my 4 by 5 1/4. And then on all of these, if I didn't use the piece that they gave me, I made the first layer 4 by 5 1/4, and if there's the second layer, it's 3 3/4 by 5. And I cut another piece of one of those pages, and then I used all 3 of the envelopes with the fireflies and put this large banner on here and one of my lanterns here, and on the inside I just put a couple more banners using some of that same paper on the inside. And there you go, just like that. I ended up with 9 cards, and I have to say that I kind of like this one, but both the inside and the outside. I love this little cutout that they gave us here to work with, and this was easy because it was one of the add-on bases, and then just going nuts with the starbursts on the inside. It reminded me 4th of July. And so there we go. Those are my alternatives this month. And this is a kit that goes a long, long way. You can make a ton of cards with this by just breaking down the fronts of those cards. On this one, I could make another card out of the other half of this angle by putting it on this side and doing my stamping up here. There are a ton of these little bags in there, ton of those jars, and I haven't begun to scratch the surface. I have most of my material left, and there you go. I've already got 9 cards. So I think this is a kit, especially, my gosh, if you get the add-on, there's an additional 20 bases in there with most of the work done for us. So it's a pretty easy kit, I think, to work with. And I like the idea. I didn't have a real stamp set that did the "You're Invited" and RSVP. Now, we can't do much of that these days, but we'll be able to eventually, and it'll be fun to have that. It might be kind of a fun thing to do, to have a gathering and invite people when we get to the end of this and bring people together, and you could use that stamp set to make your invitations. So that's it for me. Now, I do have an extra paper pumpkin. Actually, I have 2. I have 2 extra paper pumpkins. So if you will share this video and subscribe to my channel, and you'll never miss a video, particularly if you click on the little bell. Subscribing to the channels, I've learned, only gets you most notifications or random notifications. But if you click the little bell, then you get notified every time I put up a video. And I've had that conversation with several people. I subscribe to your channel, but I just don't get all the notifications. Well, you have to go in and click the bell. And once you do that, you get notified every single time I put up a video. And I would appreciate it if you would subscribe to my channel. So if you will share this video, I will wait a couple of days here, and I'll pick a couple of winners and send an extra paper pumpkin kit out to a couple of folks. Let's see, this is July still, and in 2020, and my prize for the month is the Birds and Branches bundle out of the new catalog. And all it takes to get yourself in my drawing is to put an order of any size on my website, lbedinger.stampinup.net, and you get to it through my blog, www.inkandingenuity.com. And I draw from all of the people that have put in orders at the end of the month and pick a winner. And it's as simple as that. And so that's it for me today. I will be back soon with more projects, more cards, and more tips. Bye now.